I know it doesn't look like it's just flashing wildly on the screen, but that's what it looks like to me. That's what it's doing. It's just like just flickering like crazy.
It's not doing it here, so it's probably just fine.
Okay, so we're gonna watch a couple of mobile mechanic videos that were sent to me.
Okay, sent to
just
you. Who sent them to you?
People send them to me.
Okay,
people.
Just curious. Just curious.
TikToks. Hey, huge thank you goes to Shop-Ware for sponsoring this video. In my opinion, they are the absolute best shop management system. Lucas and I both use it at our shops, and we believe it allows us to provide our customers with a unique experience unlike anything on the market right now. If you want to see what we mean, click on the link in the description below and schedule a demo today. And now, on to the video. All right, here we go.
All right, let's do it.
Mechanic.
All right, check it out, guys. Customer's having an issue with the vehicle dying on them. We're going to check it out. Right now, it got a dead battery, as you can see. We're going to jump it. We're going to see what's going on. Take it from there. That's how it's going down. You're watching J&J's Mo Mechanic with Jeff the Mechanic. You're watching Jeff Mechanic TV. All right, guys. So the customer wants to go ahead and get the starter replaced because the battery keeps dying on them. They leave it parked for like 30 minutes and it's dead. They already got a new alternator and the battery is only a year old. That's how it's going down. You already know with my breaker bar, my extension in 14 always does the job. Break it loose. All right, check it out, guys. Got the starter off. And it's the wrong one. Don't you hate when that happens? The customer got the part, so he's gonna have to go back. All right, guys, we got the correct one. Now to install. All right, guys, another one bites the dust. Off to my next job. Let's get it.
So do you think he just left out the testing? I mean, could have started.
Hold on.
I'm holding.
Did he fix the car?
He didn't say.
Well, he said he fixed it. It was a parasitic drain.
Okay. I guess my thing is how. Right?
How does the starter cause a parasitic drain? How does the starter cause a parasitic drain?
I've had it happen.
What?
I have had it happen.
The starter tries to engage.
No, the starter tries to engage. I have had a situation where a solenoid shorted internally. And just had a little bit of a piece of a contact that had laid over and was touching the side of the case. It'd sit there and it just had just a little bit of resistance there, and it would heat up. And wonder it didn't burn the car to the ground. But my point is it
that's the thing. Like it would cause so much damage.
Usually,
you're talking.
I mean, I think he's wrong. That's what I'm saying. How does he know?
Yeah, I get it. But like, there's this circuit has all the load. It's got a big fat battery cable down to the starter. It is going to pull a ton of amperage. And so you have a shorted out situation there that couldn't cause a parasitic drain. It would be instant. That battery would be dead within seconds. And then fire would start.
No, I've had some that had smaller drains in them. Usually you're right. Yes. Right. Like it gets hot, and it gets hot quick. Right, because it's got some massive draw to it. Starter's not turning, starter's shorted out, whatever it is. But typically solenoid issue, right? And the starter sits there, and it's, maybe there's resistance or a voltage drop across it. It doesn't have enough to fully turn the starter, but it's sitting there building a little bit of heat, right? You're converting electricity into heat, and so it's still, the electricity's still doing work. But so I mean, I think it's possible. But I just think that, him getting out there and saying, I'm going to jump it off. Okay, now, like he didn't give any information. How do we know if that's the problem or not?
Well, he said the battery was dying. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. So we have a parasitic drain. And then he said, well, they've already thrown an alternator on this car. Okay. I've seen alternators short out. Mm-hmm. That happens a lot. Alternator will internally short out and then immediately drain the battery. Okay,
absolutely.
Fine. So they put an alternator in there. It's still draining the battery, so that wasn't it. So now the next step is the starter. That's not the next logical step.
Well, but that's just it. We don't know. And that's the problem with a lot of this content, right? Because you just don't really know what it is that they're doing, right? Now, I would think if he was doing a voltage drop across fuses, or he was putting an amp clamp on it or something, right? The logical progression of that video should be that here he is, and he's taking the voltmeter and he's checking across the fuses, or he's putting an amp clamp across a battery terminal, or
an amp pound. An amp pound, or you put the clamp around the battery.
Yeah,
and
maybe
pulling.
it's that he pulls his infrared camera out and he takes a video of that.
That's
right?
probably a little higher tech than what he's used to. But you would think the next progression is, hey, we need to verify that we have an excessive amount of amperage pull. He puts the amp clamp on it. He sees it's pulling whatever 2 amp. And then his next step would be then maybe pull out the thermal imager if he has one. He doesn't have one. But he would at least go to, hey, I'm going to start pulling fuses. And then at least get a good scope of the work required to find a parasitic drain, which is really difficult.
I understand, right? Like, I get
tough.
That can be tough, right? Like, I like parasitic draws, right? I'm weird like that. The only one I don't like is the big fuses. I can't do a voltage drop on. But I guess my point is that I don't mind parasitic draws. I don't have an issue with parasitic draws. My thing is that and he could be right. We don't know. We don't have enough information. But I'm wondering, is this a case of he just didn't feel like sharing all of the information? He and I think you're right. I don't think he did it.
No, I don't know any self-respecting mechanic. I don't know any self-respecting mechanic that would not want to show to the world
how he went through that.
How he got to this conclusion, or how he got to the solution. The process, one is where all the value is, right? That's what you're paying for, the knowledge to be able to go through a logical progression to get to the correct conclusion. But every single mechanic that is capable of doing the test wants to show the test. This is how we found this problem.
Absolutely.
It isn't, I'm going to slap this part in. Oh, another one bites the dust. I've fixed this car because it's driving. Well, that wasn't the problem to begin with. It drove. It was that the battery was dying.
I have hired guys who had experience, who looked like they knew what they were doing. You know who I'm talking about, and had credentials, and that's how they operated. Right?
They would throw a part at it.
They'd throw a part at it all day long, and then the client's supplying the part, right? And so I think it's important to distinguish the difference between a mobile mechanic and a mobile diagnostician. Or, around here there's a mobile tire guy. You're going to get the Brian
Feely's upset.
What?
You're going to get the Brian Feely's upset.
Why would I do that?
Because it sounds like you were talking disparagingly of mobile mechanics.
I'm not speaking disparagingly of mobile mechanics. I'm saying we have to distinguish the difference between a what am I trying to say here? A mobile diagnostician, right?
Okay,
we can't talk about a mobile diagnostician in the same way we talk about a mobile mechanic. We can't talk about a mobile mechanic the way that we talk about the maintenance guys, right? There's a guy around here that's built an amazing business, right? Like, what he does is he comes in with his trailer, and he can do tires, he can do oil services, he can do basic maintenance stuff, and then refer people. He's actually got a shop where he takes things back to his shop if it's something that can't be done in the field. Right? It's not a business that I would ever want to do. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
But my point is that here he is, and he's doing a great job, and people love him, and he's got the right tools to do a good job. He's clearly showing that he's doing a good job. I think there's a difference between a mobile mechanic, right? Because let's be real about it. I think it's got to be said here. You're not going to ever convince me that the jobs that get done back here in the shop can be done in somebody's driveway.
No way.
Okay. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
There's no chance. Listen, you're not a mechanic if that's the scope of your work. I'm sure if you worked in a shop, you could consider yourself a mechanic, but doing this on the ground and going to people's houses, nope. Ain't happening. You're not going to convince me.
That's a result of the environment. He's out in the open, and he doesn't have the leverage of a lift. He wouldn't have had to put 3 pipes or extensions on the end of that ratchet if he had enough room, if he was able to put it on a lift, take the wheel off, take the fender cover off, and have actual access to it, put a swivel on it with an impact, and then it would have popped loose much more easily.
Less chance of breaking something, less chance of shorting something out. And here's the deal is I learned a lot right? I used to have to do that. When we were in the small shop, I used to work outside a lot. And I came up when we just had one bay and I was working outside a lot. Like I learned a lot because you had to get resourceful to do some things. And so I picked up some skills, and these guys back here, sometimes they'll ask, how would I do something, right? And I don't do it nearly as much as I used to, but they'll be like, holy crap, I would have never thought of that, right? Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not ideal, though.
No, it sucks. It sucks. It absolutely sucks.
All right, let's watch one more.
Okay. We're going to pick
J
on the same
Mobile
person
Mechanic.
again.
Today, customer saying that they have an issue, a coolant leak. We're gonna check it out, look for some leaks, see what's going on, take it from there. Y'all watching J&J's Mo Mechanic with Jeff the Mechanic. Y'all watching Jeff Mechanic TV. So check it out, guys. Usually on these, they leak from right here, but as you can see, they already replaced it with a cast iron one, I think. It looks like cast iron. Usually it's plastic. We're looking for some leaks. What do y'all think? You think they didn't bleed the system right after they replaced that line? Or we got a bad thermostat? Or a blown head gasket? I'll let y'all be the judge. Since all y'all TikTok mechanics can figure things out by watching a video. Alright, check it out, guys. So this customer had replaced that part, right? Because it broke, it overheated. But whoever replaced it didn't bleed the system. We have the vehicle running, and it's where it should be. It hasn't climbed up, it hasn't got hot. We're gonna take it around for a cruise and take it from and see if it gets hot. Take it from there. You gotta put air in the tire before we go on a test drive. Shaking my freaking head. All right, guys. We got back from our test run, and no overheating, bro. Who's the man? Jeff's the man.
So is he charging the customer for that?
No, of course not.
You don't think he is?
No, probably not.
The guy drove all the way out to his shop or to the house, right?
Yeah,
just to find out that the guy, like he's probably right. He probably opened up the radiator. I've made that mistake too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah.
Like the very first water pump I did on my OG Honda back in the day, I filled up the radiator, and it was full. Hadn't burped the system. Went to go drive it, like 2-3 miles down the road, it started to overheat. Pull over, and turns out radiator's empty. It's like, oh crap! Had to run in and grab some coolant. So I can see how they would have made that mistake, but the guy really didn't fix anything. Like he just put some coolant in it. So,
but I mean, let me ask you this, would we do it in our shops? I mean, like if they came in, we'd do a cooling system evaluation, because let's be real about this. Okay. I think it's important we bring this up, is that for one, I want to point out that he said, all you TikTok mechanics, you can't fix anything by watching a video or something to that effect, right? I get that. That makes sense. He's showing that, and look, in that amount of time, there's only so much you can show. So we don't really know what happened.
TikTok mechanics.
Well, but I'm just saying we only have a very limited view of what he's done, so we don't know. The thing I will say is that if a client comes to my shop, what am I going to do in that case? Because I want to rule out anything else happening. I want to show them beyond a shadow of a doubt that I know that hey, listen, I've taken care of this problem. That's why when I bring a vehicle in, I drive it 10 miles. When the vehicle leaves, I drive it 20 miles. Okay, I've got a QC person drives at 10. The technician drives at 10 before it goes to the QC person. Okay. We make the repair. Before they make the repair, they're going to do something like a cooling system pressure test. They're going to check for hydrocarbons in the cooling system. They're going to check for leaks and look the system over, look for vulnerabilities, a failing piece of plastic, a bad hose, a clamp that's weak, whatever it may be. They're going to pressure test it cold. They're going to pressure test it hot. Okay. They're going to make the repair, and they are going to vacuum fill it. Okay. After they vacuum fill it, they are going to pressure test it. And then they are going to put it on a 10-mile test drive. They're going to come back, and they are going to go over it again and just take a quick visual look, make sure they don't see any drips, dribbles, anything like that. Goes to QC. It sits on top of a piece of cardboard, and it runs for 10 minutes while they're doing the other QC stuff while it sits on top of that piece of cardboard to look for drips. Now, why do we go that in depth? Why do we spend that much time with it? Because we want to make sure the car's right. And the point I'm trying to make is that we have to charge them for that. There's no way I can do that.
That's a
without
lot of
charging
steps. So
Yeah.
I guess you're charging for that. I don't know that we would take that many steps. We would have pulled it in. We would have done a visual inspection, realized the car didn't have any coolant. We would have called up, said, hey, we're going to do a coolant pressure test on the system. We're going to check it for possible blown head gasket because it's overheated. We're going to recommend a thermostat because it's overheated. They've already told us it's overheated. So we're probably going to recommend a thermostat replacement because they get sketchy after you overheat them. And we would have filled it up. We would have then done the pressure test, realized that there were no coolant, no leaks on the pressure test, replaced the thermostat, filled it up, and then gone on the test drive. I don't know what 10 miles, but it would have been enough to properly heat cycle the vehicle and make sure that we didn't have any additional problems.
So I've been asked,
but we would have checked it for a blown head gasket as well.
Right.
Sorry.
I've been asked multiple times about the 20 miles, right? The total of 10 on the initial test drive. And sometimes it's shorter if the car's in bad shape. But I've been asked a ton of times about the 10 mile to 20 mile test drive when it's done. Why is that? It's because typically when we see a failure of our work, it happens within the first 20 miles, right? Like every single time that it's happened, it's usually within the first 20 miles. It's not 500 miles down the road. I can't control a part that fails like that. But if we've made a mistake, we didn't get something tight, there's a leak, something's going on. If that is the case,
clamp that didn't get slipped over the top of the hose.
20 miles, you're going to find
pop
it. That's all there is
20
to it.
miles, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've had that happen. We've had to tow vehicles back to the shop because of a popped hose, because of a clamp. It's really rare, though. It's extremely rare. Andrew Minkler does 15 miles after any coolant repair, but he's working on BMW Land Rover. Like,
I don't think it makes a difference.
I think that makes a huge difference.
I
think you're less likely to see.
I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think it makes that big of a difference. I think the same system problems that are seen in a European vehicle are going to be seen in a modern domestic vehicle or an Asian vehicle, right? Plastic cooling system components. We're starting to see electric water pumps in modern vehicles, right? It's not just European cars anymore. It's all cars.
Yeah. No, I understand that portion of it. You know, you get your half euro GM cars. You know, you get a 1.4 turbo in a Buick.
Yeah.
Okay, like you're going to treat that thing almost like a European car. I don't know. It's not necessarily that they have lots of little plastic bits. It's that there's such leaky messes, and it's not even that. It's just like I touch something on the left side of the engine and something on the right hand side of the engine will start leaking. And to keep the customer from getting upset, you prompt them and say, "Hey, I'm just letting you know it is a Land Rover. So if I touch something on the car, some module in the back of the car will stop working and explode because I touched the car."
Yeah.
Just the way they work.
Yep.
And so you have that conversation up front, and they kind of understand going into it. That's a little harder to explain when, you know, hey, my Buick, my $17,000 Buick baby SUV, it's like I touched something over here and now the, you know, taillights will stop working because the rear module failed. It's like, it doesn't happen as often. They're not, I don't know, as finicky, I guess.
You know, it makes me think, right? Like we're watching these videos of mobile mechanics, and I think about the protections that we have in our shops to prevent things like that from happening. What protections do these people have, right? Like I see he took it on a test drive, but I mean, you got to think you're working at somebody else's location. So what does insurance think about that? How does that look? You are working on a client's vehicle at their location. If you burn that car down, are you responsible for their home? Right? And guys will say, well, but I mean, like, they can't actually say, and besides, what could they do? Right? No, boys, they'll come after you. Right? When their insurance company finds out you burnt the house down, guess who's coming after you?
They're going to check. They're going to check to see. They're going to check for assets. That's what they're going to check and be like, oh, this guy has a 15-year-old pickup truck that he works out of, and that's it. And, you know, he's not sitting on $1.5 million in the bank. And so
are you encouraging, like, you know, not keeping any money? Are you encouraging don't build a shop or a business, just like work out of an old wore out truck and do shoddy work? Is that what you're encouraging our viewers to do?
No. I'm just saying it, like, be well insured.
But I mean,
carry
like,
lots of
there's
insurance.
There's consequence for those guys, though, right? Like you could have it
yeah.
whether or not you were the cause of something, you could have a judgment placed against you that will make sure you never get paid by an organization like a corporation ever again. Right? Like you could have a judgment that would garnish your wages. You could have a judgment that
or
would
any W-9 payments. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that makes it well. Then you go underground, and start working for cash.
Well, I mean that's the thing. I think most of these guys probably are.
Right? Oh, I guarantee you, they're working for cash. They're working for cash, and for whatever reason, they don't make any money every year.
Well, but I mean, this guy, right? This guy out here making these videos says, I'm working for cash. Well, he's making videos. They're going to know who it was. You know what I'm saying? If something goes wrong, they're coming back for him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's sketch.
I don't know. Not to begrudge this guy. Like we don't mean to pick on this random mobile mechanic.
Of course not.
It's more the, I think you're right. I don't think there's any protection. I don't think they look at it that way. I don't think they see the processes. I don't think they even understand the processes that we put into a shop and the reasoning behind it, because I don't think they've seen enough vehicles to have something go wrong. You see what I'm saying?
Experience that.
Yeah, to experience the loss and oh crap. And look at the guy in ASOG who it looks like a drain plug fell out on one of the vehicles that he was working on 500 miles later. And he's like, man, 500 miles later. It's like, yeah, dude, I've seen 500 miles later.
It was way longer than 500 miles, wasn't it?
Was it? Oh, it was
5,200
like
15,000 miles.
Yeah. No, 52. It was like one full oil change and the thing rattled loose. And we just had
a month client.
Well, he said a week.
A week.
That's nuts. For one. I mean, you don't do anything but other than, unless you've got a really big operation,
right?
Like you're just servicing that one client.
Money, yeah.
Anyway, the Latin shop across the street, the Latin restaurant across the street, one of their workers went to they work also as a bus driver down the street. There's a bus depot, like school buses, and he drives one of the school buses. And so he thought, hey, while I'm at work, I'm going to have the shop that sits next to the depot, which is just a block north of me.
Right.
We're going to have them do my oil change.
Okay.
And so he drops everything off, and he's like, hey, I'll be off at whatever. Can you knock out the oil change for me? The guy's like, yeah, no problem. He pulls up to the restaurant to work his like morning shift at the restaurant. Okay. And I'm walking away from the car and I could hear it. So it's I'm like, man, that thing sounds like crap.
That's rough, right?
They come across the street and they're like, hey, can you check out this car? I don't know, it's making all sorts of crazy noises. Juan goes out there and he's like, oh man, this thing don't have any oil in it. I'm going to try putting a quart of oil in it. And he goes to put a quart of oil in it. And it's just like draining down the bottom of the car. And he looks under the air and he takes a picture of it. And he's like, hey, I hate to tell you, but there's no drain plug on this car. Drain plug had fallen out, like completely fell out. So this guy drove, he's like, the mom's like, we just had the oil change done up the street. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, we're going to have to push it into the shop and see how much damage there is, but you might want to take it back to him. And they towed it back to him.
Do you think they're going to fix it?
I think they're putting an engine in this thing. They're going to have to. Hopefully he fills it up.
Dude.
And it's like whisper quiet. But this is an 09 Lexus.
Do you know how many shops that I have dealt with that are not doing that? That are not taking care of the client after something goes wrong? They're just like, man, sorry.
What?
Right? Like, it's happened a lot. I
had a $5,000. It turned out to be an $11,000 repair. I ate it because the piston came apart on that Hemi. You
don't even want my opinion on this.
I didn't do anything wrong. I shouldn't have been rebuilding engines. Great. That was my mistake. My mistake was I shouldn't have touched it. And instead I should have just thrown in a remand. And because I didn't, the workmanship was great. There was nothing wrong with the workmanship. A component that we didn't replace failed, and it came apart and blew apart the engine. I ended up eating an engine. Customer had been to us twice.
Hey, has he been back?
He has. Yeah, he's been good. I love the guy to death. He was super patient for, we had to wait for a back-ordered intake manifold, and it turned into like this 2-3 month ordeal. He was super cool the whole time. Picked up his car.
I'm telling you.
Brought it back for his 500-mile oil change.
But it's not the norm, right? And you know, sometimes it feels like everybody. And I think a lot of shops aren't profitable enough to stand behind it, right? Or they don't want their insurance to get canceled, and they're not profitable enough to do it. So they don't want to turn it in on insurance, right? You turn enough claims in on your insurance.
I tried to turn mine in, and they go, I don't think you're liable. Goodbye. Click. I go, wait, what?
I didn't know that was a thing.
Apparently it's a thing.